Welcome or welcome back to my channel. This video is a full body stretch out without the yoga bit, so great for those looking for a routine to work on their flexibility, perhaps to do after a workout. With time, you might become more familiar with the poses, and then you could just do a couple of each after each and every workout if perhaps you're short on time. We're going to start with a nice soft opening into the hips, and we call it child pose in yoga. So your knees are going to go wider than your hips. Step them wide, your big toes to touch, sit your bum to your heels, keep your bum as close down to your heels as you can, and then walk your hands away from you. Let your forehead rest to the floor, but try to keep the rest of your arm floating so it's just your palm that touches the mat. Then use your hands against the mat to push your body weight backwards to keep sinking your bum towards your heels. And this should be stretching into your outer glutes. It's a relatively soft stretch to start, so don't be worrying if it's not super intense for you here. But with these nice long elongated arms as well, you should be able to feel length in the sides of the body. And we're starting to open into the shoulders as well. So just holding here, letting your body feel heavy, thinking of your belly sinking down towards or between your thighs, your chest sinking down towards the mat beneath you, and keeping that press into the hands so that the body weight stays pushing back into those hips and heels. Using your breath in all these stretches will be really helpful to help you find comfort in the stretch. And that's the real key to being able to find flexibility, is you need to get your body to relax in whatever shape you're taking. So starting somewhere easy here, breathing in, breathing out. Great, and then coming up onto the shins, we're going to bring the knees together and tuck the toes under behind us. Now this is going to stretch through the soles of your feet, which can feel really, really intense for some people, but is really good for your foot health, so see if you can stay with it. Breathe in and send your arms to the sky and find lots of length in the sides of your body. And then breathe out, place your right fingertips onto the floor next to you and pull that left arm up and over as you push your ribs out towards the left. So side body stretch in the left side. Either leave your arm straight or bend the elbow and take your hand towards your shoulder, and that'll really focus the stretch into your tricep on that top left arm. Great, undoing that. See if you can stay with the toes, untuck them if your feet have had enough. Breathing in, both arms reach tall. And then breathing out, left hand to the floor next to you, keeping that length that you've created in the body and just sending it over to one side. Shoulder rolls back, option to bend the elbow and reach the fingertips towards your left shoulder. Breathing in. And then breathing out, release it. So then bringing as much as we are just focusing you, step your knees a little bit further back, away from your wrists, and then we're going to come into a downward facing dog. So you're going to tuck your toes under, lift your knees, lift your hips to the sky, and you're aiming for a nice upside down V shape. The knees want to stay bent here for 99.9% of us. So a bent knee, hips pushing into the sky, and you're really trying to open your armpits wide here. If you're on some sort of surface that's meaning that your hands are slipping away from you, either put your hands onto fists or hold on to, if you've got an exercise mat, hold on to the mat to help you push backwards. We're trying to keep our spine nice and long, so we're lengthening the lower back, we're lengthening the hamstrings, we're lengthening the calves, we're opening into the shoulders and into the back. So there's a reason that this feels quite hard. See if you can hold it here. You can take a little wiggle of your legs if you want to help release into your hamstrings. But just take a few more breaths here, trying to grow tall through your pelvis and keep being heavy through those heels, but without forcing the legs straight. Breathing in and breathing out. Great, moving on. I want you just to step your feet forwards a little bit and then walk your hands back to meet your feet. So we're coming into a forward fold. Keep your knees really bent here. It's called a ragdoll fold in yoga. We want bent knees so that the belly, the thighs, squish together, and then you let your body hang over your legs. So the purpose of keeping the knees bent is that we can lengthen our lower back as well. It's really hard to stretch your lower back, but it's so stiff in a lot of people. So keep those knees bent. You'll still feel it in your hamstrings. Your hips are pushing high to the sky, but your body and your legs stay connected. Your arms to dangle freely, and just let your head feel nice and heavy in front of your legs as well. Keep those hips pushing high, feel that length in the back of the legs. The weight is a little bit forwards towards your toes, so there's less weight into your heels. And with that lightness that you can feel there, think of lifting those sit bones up to the sky. Great, and then from here, we're going to move into a halfway lift. So for most people, their hands can come to about their kneecaps. So as you breathe in, I want you to draw your chest forwards, and you're aiming for a straight spine, a flat spine. If you can see your reflection somewhere, that's great, because you can see if you've got it. You can come higher if you've not got it yet. So here, now that we've flattened out the lower spine, we can really get into the hamstrings. The legs are straight, so we can squeeze our quads, and with that engagement of your quads, you should feel a bigger lengthening in the back of the legs. Think of your sit bones pushing backwards as if you're trying to tap the wall or whatever it is that's behind you. Push your bum back and find as much length in the back of those thighs as you can. Holding here, take a breath in. And then breathe out, rebend those knees and come back into the floppy version. So compress your body against your legs, push your hips high and let that back slightly round again. We'll do one more of the same. Inhale, hands to your legs, pull your chest forwards. Keep those thighs pressing back, spine is long, shoulders away from your ears. And then exhale, releasing, hands back to the floor, coming down onto your knees. We're going to move out of the hamstrings and into the hip flexors. So stacking tall, we're going to go right leg first. Right leg steps out in front of us, and we want to step it far enough away so that as we sink our hips forwards and down, our knee stays roughly on top of our ankle. Don't be too concerned about getting that like a ruler or anything, but just try to avoid this shape. It's a lot of pressure into your knee and your ankle. So, sinking down into your lunge, we're aiming to find the stretch in the front of the left side where the quad and the body connect, and also into the quad itself. We want to squeeze our left glutes here. That's going to help drive the hips forwards and down and really find a deeper, more effective stretch into that left hip. See if you can keep your hips nice and heavy. We're going to distract ourselves with adding an upper body stretch in at the same time. So two options, right arm reaches up and down between your shoulder blades. Option one, to hold the elbow, pull it in towards your head and push it down. Second option is to use your left hand to see if you can find your fingertips together, binding the hands and keeping your chin lifted away from your chest. So this will get into your lats, your tricep, the front of the shoulder on the bottom arm, and don't worry, we're coming to the other arm afterwards. Keep that left glute squeezing, keep driving your hips down and stretching a little bit of the whole body in just one go here. And then release your hands, letting them come to the floor. Wiggle your right foot a little bit wider. Keep the toes pointing forwards and then both hands to come on the inside of the leg, making the knees stay nice and close to the shoulder so everything is still pointing forwards. And this is our lizard lunge. The front foot is pushing down into the floor. And as you do that, you should feel it a little more intently into this right hamstring. And what we're doing there is we're activating the stretch. We're contracting the muscle at the same time as stretching it. And that makes it feel more intense, but it also makes it more effective. You're finding range in strength, or should I say strength in range, which is effectively what mobility is rather than flexibility. So I am just talking to distract you guys here. So take another deep breath in. And then as you breathe out, just loosen a little, relax that front foot, just ease out of the pose slightly because we're staying in this shape. Your left hand is going to stay down, but step it a little bit wider towards the left side. And then your front foot, you're going to turn out at about 45 degrees. Our aim here is to hold our back foot because we really want to turn this into a quad stretch now. So the right hand is going to go behind to see if it can find the foot. But if you can't quite reach it, have something to help you reach it. If you are somewhere that has a wall, what you can do is put your foot up the wall instead so you don't have to reach it and you can come into a supported stretch. Otherwise, you need to find that foot, pull it in towards your bum, and I'm sure you can already feel your quad if you've done that, if you've managed that. And then in the front leg, the toes are already pointing out. I want you to let the knee fall away from you, onto the outer edge of the foot. So the big toe lifts, you're rolling onto the little toe edge of your foot, but you're still pulling this back foot in. It's a massive stretch, a little bit of everything. We've got external hip rotation in the front leg. We've got the quad and the hip flexor in the back leg. The torso is twisting, the shoulder is open, so the chest is stretching. There's a lot going on. Breathe through it. And then gently let that foot go. Wiggle the foot back towards the center of the mat. Shifting your hips back, we're coming for a hamstring stretch. Hips on top of knee, pull your toes away from the mat. And really press your heel down into the floor. So the same way in lizard a minute ago, we sunk the foot into the mat. This time I want you to sink your heel in, but strongly pull your toes back towards your shin. That's doing the same thing for activating your hamstring. We want to think of the compression of the belly to thigh, like when we did the ragdoll fold. Keep these two body parts connected so that we can lengthen our lower back as well as lengthening our hamstring. They're very much connected. If you've got tight hamstrings, you've probably got a tight lower back as well. Keep your chest trying to pull forward, so you're trying to keep length in your spine. And if you're deepening, you're compressing the belly to the thigh rather than forcing the leg straight. You really don't need to straighten your leg here. I've got very long hamstrings. I can stretch my hamstring with a bent knee, so most people will be the same. Great, coming to the other side, so swipe that leg back. It's the left leg that's going to go out in front of us. So first we're going to come into the low lunge. You're going to drive your hips forwards and down, sinking the pelvis towards the front line of the mat, squeezing the right glutes to help the front side, this right hip flexor open, and giving the top of the foot a press down, sinking forwards and down. Give yourself a minute to settle here first. Finding that stretch, thinking of lifting the chest up and back, so it's almost like you're trying to stretch into your belly as well, and then adding in the upper body stretch. Left arm up, reaches down between your shoulder blades, and your hand to hold that elbow and pull it in and push it down, or alternatively, send that right hand underneath and see if you can find the bind. With that arm in the sky, doesn't matter which one you've taken, you want to keep the arm nice and close in towards your head. And you might even be able to lift your chin enough that your head starts pressing back into your arm, and you can feel that even more into your tricep. Remember the lower legs. We're squeezing the right glutes. We're pressing down through the back foot. Huge old stretch into the front of the right hip flexor. Good. Breathe out. Release, let it go. Hands to come to the floor. Both hands now inside the foot. Wiggle it a little wider so it's towards the outside of your mat if you're using one. The foot stays pointing forwards. Don't turn it out yet. Lizard lunge comes first. Chest forwards. Press down into your front foot nice and strong. You can also do the same with the back foot. Press it down against the mat and just play around with that movement, noticing where you feel it, how it changes the stretch, and then breathe through it. Good, inhale and exhale. Right, your front foot, you're going to turn it out a little bit so it's pointing off to one side. The right hand is going to step a little wider, big gap between hand and foot. Twisting your torso to look over your left shoulder. Left hand is then going to find that back foot. Give yourself a few options to have that foot if you're struggling to reach. Use a scarf, a tie, anything you've got at home to lasso that foot. And then as you pull it in towards your bum, feel like your bum is running away from it. Your bum's trying to sink down towards the mat. And then front leg, let the knee roll outwards. The foot rolls onto the little toe edge as you turn your chest to face that direction. So even though we might not be, yoga might not be your thing, you just want to work on your flexibility and mobility, you can really benefit from focusing on your breathing. And just think of it as a way as to keep the body calm. If your body feels stressed and tense and it's sort of starting to panic, which stretching can do for you, all your body is going to do is seize up and tighten. It thinks that you might start to injure yourself, so it starts to contract. You're not going to be able to find flexibility there. So use the breathing to just allow yourself to feel calm as a method of finding flexibility. I think that's long enough, guys. Breathe it in and then slowly releasing it, breathing out. Right, foot wiggles back towards the middle of the mat, hands either side, and then shift your hips back, the hamstring stretch, hips roughly on top of back knee, ribs and belly stay connected to the thigh, toes pull off of the floor and push your heel down into the mat. Trying to maintain a long spine, so chest lengthens forwards. Use your exhales as the opportunity to deepen the stretch if that's where you've got to, or just those exhales to try and encourage yourself to relax. A few more here. Breathing in. Breathing out. Good, right. We're going to come up to stand. You can leave your feet separated and then turn all toes so they're facing the same direction. So you're into a wide-legged stance and the toes want to turn inwards slightly so that the edges of your feet are sort of parallel with one another rather than sort of in or out. So trying to keep our quads engaged, so we're going to be stretching through the hamstrings and the adductors, sort of the inner thighs. So if we can engage the quads, that's going to help those hamstrings lengthen. Take your hands to your waist to begin with. Take a deep breath in and think of lengthening the front of the body up towards the sky. Squeeze your quads, don't let go of them. Use your exhale, your chest is going to go forwards as you push your sit bones backwards, and imagine your spine is completely straight and flat the whole way. Don't allow it to round. Stop when you feel that you can't fold further. So those sit bones are pushing backwards, the thighs are pressing backwards. The quads are engaged. You can release your hands to rest onto the floor if the floor is reachable for you. If not, and you're leaving your hands to your waist, this will feel more intense because obviously you're holding your body weight. There's more core going on as well. So if you have somewhere to rest your fingertips, that's a good idea. As with our ragdoll fold, the weight is slightly forwards towards the toes. And then you're pushing your sit bones to the sky. And if you find that little bit of softness to be able to release into the fold a little further, you're thinking of compressing your belly towards the gap between your thighs now. Imagine your thighs are ever so slightly spiraling in towards each other. That's going to help you keep the stretch a little bit more inward towards your inner thighs as your sit bones push to the sky. And then just a couple of extra moments here. I want you to walk your hands over to the right side towards your foot. If you can reach, you can hold the foot and give yourself a pull in that direction. Otherwise, just leave your hands over to the right side, noticing that this right hamstring and groin area gets a little bit of extra attention. Inhale. And then exhale all the way over to the other side, hands to the left foot. You can either hold the foot and give yourself a gentle pull against it, or just leave your hands on the floor. Breathing in. And then breathing out. Turn yourself back round, coming down onto the knees. Leave your hips in the sky. We're going to stretch into the upper body. Leave your bum on top of your knees. Your hands are going to walk away from you. Your forehead to come to the floor, so it's a little bit like child's pose, but the hips are in the sky. Your hands, hopefully, are the only part in contact with the mat, so your forearms and your elbows stay lifted. If you want to make this more intense, stack your hands up onto the fingertips and think of your chest sinking towards the floor. So you're really opening into the whole upper body here, chest, lats, shoulders, all stretching. Think of pushing your chest and your ribs down towards the mat as you keep those forearms and elbows lifting away. Breathing out, release your hands. So we're going to turn into a very specific sort of chest stretch. So you can come down to the floor. If you are perhaps outside and you don't want to lie down on the floor, you can do this up against a wall. So I'll obviously show it lying down. Lying down against the floor, your right arm is going to reach out, palm faces the floor, or you can stand in front of a wall, reach your arm out as your palm faces the wall. You're then going to roll your body onto your right hand side. Keep the shoulder pressing down against the floor, keep the palm pressing down. The same would apply to the wall. You can just roll your body away as you press your palm inward. Think of your hips rolling backwards. Your head can rest down if you're lying down. And just really try to focus breathing into the upper part of that right chest area. So as you breathe in, you can feel a bigger stretch. And then soften and release as you breathe out. This one probably feels pretty intense if you've been doing lots of push-ups or benching or something, using a lot of chest muscles. So just allow yourself to try and relax here and benefit most from the stretch. Bring yourself back to the center and then switch sides. Left arm, reach it out, rolling onto your side. Use your other hand to help you stay there and think of sinking the shoulder down, pressing gently the palm down as well, the same way that when we did the leg stretches, we pressed the foot down or we pressed the knee down. By pressing the shoulder and the hand down, you're keeping activity in the muscle that you're stretching, making your stretch much more effective. Great, all the way back onto your belly and push your way up onto your knees. Spin yourself around onto your bum and then sending your legs out in front of you as we move into some hip and glute stretches. So right leg to stay extended, bending through the left knee and crossing it over to the other side and ground the whole sole of the foot down. Try to avoid staying onto the edge of the foot. Sit yourself nice and tall, and as before with our ragdoll fold, think of your belly and your thighs staying squished together. You're going to take your left hand behind you, think of the knee moving towards your right shoulder, and either give the leg a little hug as you look over that left shoulder, or maybe you've got space to hook the elbow around the thigh to deepen through the twist. Make sure both your bum bones stay level, stay grounded onto the floor, or if you're sat onto a block, then both to be onto the block. If you allow your bum sort of lift up and away from the floor, you're just bypassing the stretch. So there's really little to be gained from doing that. If the arm is causing that, then stop with the arm and keep your bum down. Use that press or pull against the leg to really stretch across your back as well. You should feel the twist part stretching through sort of the mid part of your back. And then untwist. Come to the other side. So left leg goes out, right leg bends in, sole of the foot down, sit bone down, right hand behind you. Looking over the shoulder, either holding and squeezing the leg or hook the elbow as you twist and look over the right side. Great, bring it back to center. And then this time the soles of the feet you want to come to match one another. If you're at home or somewhere where you can sit up against something, sit with your back to a sofa or back to a wall, this is a really nice one to do with back support. We want to keep our spine as long as we can as we pull the heels as close in towards our sit bones as possible. Without that back support, that's sometimes not quite so much because the spine collapses, because it takes quite a lot of core to keep pulling yourself up. So if you have that option, it's a great way to get into this stretch a little easier. Your hands can either hold your feet, particularly if you're doing this without support, sit yourself as tall as you can as you press those thighs away, feeling the stretch into the inner thighs here. If you have your back against something and you don't really need that tension in the arms, you can place your hands onto your knees or your arms onto your thighs and give them a little push wider. A little bit more challenging to do if you don't have the support, because it tends to just cause you to round backwards. So think of those thighs rolling sort of away from one another, sinking the legs down and keeping your body as tall as possible. Great, releasing that. And then coming down onto your backs. We're going to move into the more outer area of the hip. Cross your left ankle over your right thigh. Couple of options here. Either use your left hand to push that knee away from you. You should be feeling it into your outer left sort of bum cheek. You can feel it into the inner hip as well. That's no problem. If that's not challenging you, you can then curl your right leg in and interlace your hands around either the thigh or the shin. Couple of important things to note here. Make sure your knee feels fine, no pressure or tension. And if you do ease out of it, go back to the first option. You can flex your foot, that's going to help protect your knee, and make sure your lower back and your hips are down onto the floor. So don't allow your bum to start curling up and away and sort of bypassing that stretch. Press your ankle against the thigh in the same way that we've been doing in the chest and in the lizard stretch. By making that muscle activate, it's going to make things feel more intense, but it's going to be worthwhile. Okay, and then switch the legs. Right ankle over left thigh. Find the option that works best for you. Check in with your knee, check in with your foot. Find that pressure against the thigh and root your lower back down against the floor. Just a couple more here. Probably going to feel this one quite a lot if you did a lot of squats yesterday. and then let it go. Let your knees hug in towards your chest, give yourself a little hug, and then let your knees drop over to one side, go over to the right, that your left arm reaches out in the opposite direction, and leave your palm facing the sky so that we can find opening in the front chest. You can use your right hand to pin your legs down in one direction, let your shoulder be pinned down in the other, and then turning your head towards your hand for a nice big old twist. Should be feeling the lengthening sort of spiraling around this top left side. You might also get it into your hips and glutes as well, and obviously across the front of this shoulder. It's one of those stretches that I feel you could stay in forever, but for purposes of this, let's go straight the other side. Legs over to the left, arm goes out to the right, gaze to the hand, pin the shoulder down, pin the leg down. Don't worry if the shoulder doesn't actually touch the floor, it's the direction you're trying to send it. You're sinking it towards the mat and focusing on finding that spiraling length along the right top side of the body. Great. Roll yourself back to the middle, all the way up to seated. We are all done. Thanks for watching, and I hope you feel fully stretched out. If you'd like to try something a little different and something to calm and de-stress, you might like this yoga class here. Or you can take a look at this playlist here for some fun arm balances and other yoga poses to give a try. Don't forget to subscribe if you'd like to hear each and every time I release something new.